If you have a job and you want to ace the IELTS speaking test, then you need to practice a very important IELTS speaking part 1 topic. That topic is work and jobs. It's one of the most common topics in IELTS speaking. And in this video, we're going to do a deep dive and look at the most common questions that you could be asked. I'll give you some vocabulary, I'll give you tips, and I'll give you some high-level sample answers so that you can impress the examiner. So, let's get started talking about the topic of work and jobs. First of all, let me give you a quick reminder about the IELTS speaking test. So, the first topic in part 1 that you'll be asked about could be one of 3. So it could be your hometown, your house or your apartment, or your work or your studies. It's always going to be one of those 3. So you have to be totally prepared for all 3 of those topics. We have other videos if you want to practice about hometown and about your house and apartment, or about studies if you're a student. You can find the links down here, or you can click up here to go to those. But for now, we're going to keep talking about work and jobs. Now, the topic of work in IELTS Speaking Part 1 can be divided into 3 different categories, 3 different types of questions. And we're going to meet all of those questions, and for each type of question, we're going to learn some great phrases, high-level phrases that you can use in your answer, and we're going to see some sample answers as well. So the first category is questions about the nature of your job, like what is your job all about? So the first one, the most common question, what is your current job or profession? You could also be asked, can you describe your job responsibilities, or what are the typical tasks that you do on a daily basis? Another question, what are the main challenges you face in your job? Or another way, is there anything you find difficult about your job? And then finally, what skills or abilities are important for your job? Or they might ask, what abilities are required to be good at your job? So those are some of the questions that you could be asked about the nature of your job. Now we're going to look at some great phrases that you can use to answer those questions. And we can use these phrases quite flexibly for different questions. So the first one is, I'm currently employed as your job title, working for a company called, and then the name of your company. So you might say, I'm currently employed as a data analyst working for a company called Amazon. Then the next one, the lion's share of what I do on a day-to-day basis is definitely, and then the task. So day-to-day basis means like every day. The lion's share is a great phrase that means the majority of something, like what's the thing that I do most of the time. So you might say, the lion's share of what I do on a day-to-day basis is analyzing data. Then when you want to talk about a problem, you could say, I'd say the biggest headache that my colleagues and I face on a daily basis is, and then whatever the difficult thing is. So the biggest headache here represents like the annoying thing, the difficult thing, the thing that gives you problems. So for example, I'd say the biggest headache that my colleagues and I face on a daily basis is working with our company's very slow Wi-Fi, because they don't want to pay for an expensive Wi-Fi. Then finally, in terms of the skills or qualities required for my job, an absolute non-negotiable is, and then some kind of skill or quality. So a non-negotiable means something you must have. If you don't have that skill, you can't do the job. So you might say an absolute non-negotiable is a deep understanding of maths for being a data analyst. Now you can use all of those phrases for different questions, but let me show you how we could use them to answer just one question. So this question is going to be, can you describe your job responsibilities? And I've got 5 sentences in total. I'm going to read the answer, and after each sentence, I'll leave a short pause, And you can stop the video and try and say it yourself if you want to improve your pronunciation and your fluency. So let's go. Well, I'm currently employed as a data analyst for a small startup company called Extreme. In terms of my job responsibilities, I'd say that the lion's share of what I do on a day-to-day basis is looking at sales data and analyzing it. The idea is to help my boss understand our customers in a very detailed way. But I'd say the biggest headache that my colleagues and I face has to be cleaning up the data. It usually comes into us partially corrupted, and it takes an age to get it ready for analysis. So that's the full answer, and that would definitely be a Band 9 answer. Hopefully that gives you an idea about how we can use those phrases in a very natural way to answer the question. And if you're planning to take the IELTS exam and you want to be guided along and give yourself the best chance of getting a high score, we have a great course for you. It is our IELTS Complete Guide. It covers the reading, writing, speaking, and listening tests, and it's updated every 4 months with the new IELTS speaking questions and answers. So you know whenever you take your test, that course is going to be fresh and ready to help you. If you want more information, the link is down here. The next category of question is questions about the past or the future. So we have to be careful with our tense here. We have to use past tense for the past questions and future tense like will or want to or plan to or going to for the future tense. So the first question is about the past. So they could ask you, how long have you been working in your current position? Or when did you start working in your job? Then they might ask you, how did you become interested in your current profession? Or why did you decide on this job? And then about the future, will you continue in this job in the future? Or they might say, do you have any plans or aspirations for your future career? So for these past and future questions, we've got 5 phrases that you can use. Let's take a look at each of them. So first of all, I've been in my current position for a little under number of years now, or a little over number of years now. Then the next one, well, what first got me into the idea of being a job title was, and then the reason. So you might say, well, what first got me into the idea of being a data analyst was the chance to work with algorithms. And another way to say that, in terms of my profession, I think what really lit a spark for me was, and then some kind of event. So to light a spark, or the past tense is lit a spark, means to make you interested in something. So that might be like the time you saw a speech by someone and you wanted to do that job. Or maybe it's like you watched a movie, or your teacher said to you, oh, you could be pretty good at this. So that's what lit a spark for you. So for example, in terms of my profession, I think what really lit a spark for me was winning a maths competition when I was 14. Then talking about the future, we can say, well, looking forward, what I envision for myself in the next few years is, and then some sort of activity. For example, what I envision for myself in the next few years is learning some new skills and changing to a new company. And envision is a very nice word there. It means like what I see for myself, my plan for myself in the future. Then finally, a nice long sentence, and you can just add a little detail of your own to make it perfect. So that one is, I'd really like to move into area in the next few years, because I see that as the next logical step in my plan for my own personal growth. So that could be, I'd really like to move into product design, or whatever area you want to move into. So let's see how those phrases could be used in a full answer. So the question is going to be, will you continue in this job in the future? Again, I'm going to read my answer sentence by sentence. I'll leave a short pause at the end of each sentence. You can stop the video and try to read it yourself. So, well, I've been in my current position for a little over 5 years now, and it is starting to feel like time for a change. What first got me into the idea of being a primary school teacher was the prospect of helping kids to grow and fulfill their potential. That's still important to me, but I'd really like to move into teacher training in the next few years, because I see that as the next logical step in my plan for my own personal development. So at the end there, you can change it up. You could say my personal growth, or my personal development, even maybe my personal improvement. Then the third category of questions about work and jobs is about your job satisfaction. So the examiner might ask you, what do you like most about your job? Or, are there any particular aspects of your job that you enjoy more than others? Which is, again, the same question, just said in 2 different ways. And they'll also ask you the opposite question. So, is there anything you don't like about your job? Or, what would you change about your job if you could? Now, that question you have to be a little bit careful, because you'll have to use the conditional voice. If I could change something, I would change, and then whatever it was. So be careful there of the grammar. And then a pretty difficult question. In what way does your job contribute to society or make a difference? Or, in what way does your job affect the world around you? So let's take a look at some phrases we can use to answer those different questions. So first of all, well, the thing that really gets me out of bed in the morning is, and then you say what it is. So the good thing. What gets me out of bed means the thing that makes me excited, the thing that makes me want to start working. So, for example, well, the thing that really gets me out of bed in the morning is the chance to work with children and teach them something new about the world. Then the second one, I'd say that I definitely have a love-hate relationship with one particular aspect of my job, which is, and then something that you kind of, maybe you like it or you don't like it. It could be something like, which is the paperwork, or which is talking to the parents if you're a teacher. So it's love-hate relationship means that a lot of the time you hate it. Yes, maybe you love it as well, but the hate is a strong part of love-hate relationship. So it has to be something that isn't really, really good. Like, you wouldn't say, something that I have a love-hate relationship with is being the best or having a lot of money, because those are usually pretty good things. It has to be something that's kind of bad as well. Then the next phrase, the specific aspect of my job that tends to keep me up at night is, and then the detail. And if something keeps you up at night, that usually means that it's stressful or difficult. It makes you worry. It stops you from sleeping. So it keeps you up at night. And then finally, the most satisfying thing about my job is definitely seeing the impact that we have on the wider world, particularly in terms of, and then a detail. So you might say, particularly in terms of the reduced levels of pollution in my city. So those are the phrases we can use about job satisfaction. Let's see what happens when we put them all together into a full Band 9 answer. So the question is going to be, is there anything you don't like about your job? And again, I'm going to read sentence by sentence. You can stop and read after me. Well, in my role as a computer programmer, I'd say that I definitely have a love-hate relationship with one particular aspect of my job, which is the long hours. A typical workday for me starts at 8 a.m. and finishes at 9 p.m. The thing that really gets me out of bed in the morning is the impact my work can have in terms of creating new digital products and services. But I must admit that I leave the office exhausted every day. So that is our full answer. Remember to watch that again and keep practicing if you want to improve your fluency and your pronunciation. And if you found this video useful, please make sure to like and subscribe down here. And down here under the video, you can also find those full answers, all of the questions, and all of the phrases as well. If you want to keep improving your IELTS speaking score, make sure to check out our playlist. It's available here on the screen now. Loads of great videos to help you study by yourself. My question for you today, do you have a job? If you do, what is it? And can you use one of our phrases from this video to describe something about your job? Any of the phrases is okay, you can choose, but write your sentence for me down here. I'm Francis, thank you very much for watching. Good luck in your IELTS exam, and I'll see you next time.